In today's summary of the General Staff of Ukraine, it is said that the enemy is concentrating the main efforts on the Kupiansk, Lyman, BAKHMUT, Avdiivka, and Maryanka sectors where heavy fighting continues. In turn, the armed forces of Ukraine continue to advance in the Melitopol and Berdyansk directions and consolidate on the achieved lines. In the Kupiansk section of the Kharkiv direction, the enemy tried to advance in the areas of Novosilovsky and Stelmakivka. Western experts report that the Russians have occupied Novosilovsky 1st Street and are trying to enter the village from the south. In the BAKHMUT sector, the General Staff reported in the morning about partial success in the Klishchivka area. According to the Speaker of the General Staff Andrei Kovalev, the Ukrainian army continues to advance on the flanks, knocking the Russians out of the previously captured lines. Heavy fighting is underway. Deputy Defense Anna Malier also reports more than a kilometer of advance on the southern flank in several sectors. According to her, there are no changes on the northern flank of BAKHMUT. Malier also said that in BAKHMUT itself, the Russians were actually trapped. The armed forces of Ukraine complicated their movement as much as possible and made it impossible to get out. I note that the Ukrainian forces have been reporting successes in the Klishchivka area for quite a long time, but it is known that the village is still under the control of the enemy. Russian sources claim to have repelled attacks south of BAKHMUT. Moreover, Western experts report that the Russians launched a number of counterattacks on the flanks. They claim that the Russian army launched counterattacks in the Klishchivka and Berkivka areas, and managed to recapture the recently lost territory and stabilize the front. Also, according to Western experts, battles have begun again for the outskirts of the city of BAKHMUT. The Ukrainian army is attacking from Ivaniivsk. The German newspaper Bild interviewed soldiers of the Ukrainian armed forces who are fighting near BAKHMUT. The material came out with the headline, "Fighting the Russians is Getting Harder." The Ukrainian militaries told reporters that the Russians are massively using drones. The danger from drones is huge. They see everything and usually immediately open fire. The enemy sees all our movements. Usually we can only move at night. We need night vision goggles, and armored vehicles are also very necessary. The enemy is chasing us with helicopters, planes, anti-tank weapons, said a military man named Andrei. As the article says, both in the south and in the east the defense of the Russians is strong, which causes high casualties. Anyone who visits Ukrainian hospitals these days can see the price soldiers pay. Countless fighters have lost arms, legs and feet. NATO sources say there have been tens of thousands of them since the start of the war, write the authors of the material. Ukrainian servicewoman Margarita believes that the situation is very difficult and the quick liberation of the territories is impossible. The situation has always been difficult, and now it is even more difficult. Behind every centimeter of the liberated territory are the lives of many fighters. There are casualties, heavy battles. The Russian army does not degrade and does not fight primitively. Some parts fight very effectively and improve. They use drones, said Margarita. There is not much news from the southern front, where the armed forces of Ukraine launched a counteroffensive a month ago. Deputy Defense Minister Malier reports in his Telegram channel that the Ukrainian Defense Forces continue offensive operations in the Melitopol and Berdyansk sectors. Hot battles are going on everywhere. According to her, our defenders are now actually grinding the enemy's equipment and weapons there, destroying weapons depots, hitting the places of compact location of the Russian military, thus significantly reducing the offensive and defensive capabilities of the enemy. Also, according to Malier, the enemy in the south has 5 times more military deaths than ours. Meanwhile, Russian military telegram channels report on the tactics that Ukrainian forces have begun to use in attacks in the south. They abandoned the throes of large mechanized forces, with powerful fortifications, minefields, and the dominance of Russian aviation equipment is quickly knocked out. And switched to mosquito assaults, continuous attacks on Russian positions by small tactical groups of infantry. When the Ukrainians go to the trenches, the Russians, avoiding losses, often retreat, leaving the artillery to destroy the attackers. This tactic sometimes succeeds and the Ukrainian armed forces withdraw, but as a result friendly fire almost completely destroys Russian fortifications.